I mean, that was, no offense to my family, but that was one of my favorite parts, you know. We went through,
It's always good to see that there's more than what you know.
oh yeah, and the speed limits, even on those secondary roads, was 75. So we were tearing down the road. Went through Socorro, which is in the middle of New Mexico, over through Roswell, and then down to
See
Abilene.
anything?
Well, no, but that's ours. We said, where do you want to go? And she said, I want to go to the UFO Museum in Roswell. I want to go to
Did
Santa
you?
Fe. Yeah, we did.
Cool.
Yeah. Pardon?
I need your help for a second.
Oh.
Just 1 second. So I did a thing where I just tried it, streaming live, and now it's streaming, so I'm actually now nervous that I should do that if I stop it. It'll freeze up.
Yeah, just leave it.
Just leave it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because
It's too much.
Okay. You have to start the whole thing over.
Okay. I'm good.
And that break, I'll come over and work on it through it.
Okay. Thank you.
Were you the driver?
I drove every mile. Michelle didn't drive one bit.
That's what pretty much Pat drives when we're driving.
What? What do you call? What'd you say?
I said Pat drives when we're driving.
I thought you were making some comment about me again.
Okay. Well, in that case, thanks, Pat. On behalf of the rest of the world, many thanks. Yeah.
You never know about what Pat does, so
I don't know, man. I'm getting some scoop right now.
Well, Texas
you gotta
is
watch
a
out for me.
long open space.
It is. I got two really, well, three things. One, we stopped at the Walnut Canyon right outside of Flagstaff and saw the Anasazi ruins. It's like a 20-mile long canyon.
Is that just outside of Flagstaff?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's literally like 10 minutes, and it's 5 minutes off the freeway. And it had just poured down rain. So, we said, well, if it pretends like it's going to stop, we'll go. And we went, and it was still raining when we pulled up, but then it stopped. And there was no one else. Michelle and I had no place to watch. So, so in a place called Dadle, New Mexico, which is literally nothing, it's one store, they had a sign that said, anyone but Hillary. And Iris was standing out there taking a picture of it with her phone. This is a gas station that has a deer head on the inside. So she's taking a picture of it with her phone, and some guy in a pickup says, take a look at the other side. And she went around and it said, anybody but Bernie. And he said, Iris told me, I was inside, I didn't hear any of this. And he said, maybe you've noticed people around here aren't too afraid to express their opinions. And so she pantomimed zipping her lip. And he said, no, honey, I want you to say exactly how you feel. That's what makes us who we are. And I was like, oh, sweet. And then in Brownsfield.
You wouldn't expect that.
No, it was exactly the opposite. That's the beautiful thing. In Brownsfield, Texas, I was gassing up at California friends in my car. And the guy next to me in the truck, that the bottom part was up about this high. Older gentleman, maybe 10 years older than me. Not older, but just 10 years old. Very large man, all covered with a green t-shirt. He said, so y'all from California? And I said, no, I told him what we were doing. We got to talking. And he said, yeah, my son's moving to Oregon. I said, oh, what's he going to do? He's going to grow marijuana. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, well, come on. Yeah, I said, well, you know, that's what's going on in Oregon right now. He said, well, I can't say too much about that because I'm a cop. But after it was over, he shook my hand. He was the kindest, greatest. And he shook, Iris was standing out there with me, and he said, Miss Iris, he shook her hand. He said, you have beautiful eyes.
Bizarre.
And he was just I said,
But
this is what you forget about Texas.
Well, I was going to
Makes
say,
me think
that's a
if Steve and I
southern
would
thing,
feel
isn't it? I mean, people are
something like that might happen to us because we can get
Even if they are diametrically opposed to you in politics and religion.
Yeah, they could shoot you.
Yeah, later. But right now, my courtesy is high.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It was, I'll never forget that moment. I just thought, this is the thing that's so easy to forget if you just hear what you hear word of mouth. You forget. Texas is full of large-hearted people.
to do the due diligence. We got the holding
It
pattern.
was really a great moment. And when we got in the car to drive off, his truck was again right up here, the bottom part. And there was a little girl in the back of the truck.
Great.
Like, right on.
Did I ever tell you about trying to find Lightning Hopkins? You know Lightning Hopkins? Did I ever tell you that story? Pat and I were driving, we're going to New Orleans, we're coming down from Oklahoma. And we're just outside of Dallas, south of Dallas, and I see Waxahachie, Texas. And one of his albums, he goes, boys, if you're ever out in Waxahachie, you drop by. I said, Pat, we gotta stop. We gotta stop. It's a dusty little town.
Oh, yeah, I've been there. I know exactly what
I
that is.
pull into, I find a phone booth and look, that was when they had
Exactly.
and I look it up, Lightning Hopkins, there it was. And I dial the number, and obviously some old black guy goes, oh, is this Lightning? Is this Lightning? Yeah. No, they say no Lightning. Hung up on me. So, well, I tried.
Dude, you've been rejected by Lightning Hopkins. Sweet. Better than me. You can put that in your book of reviews.
Would anybody like a copy of the liturgy? There's some on the bookcase too, if you'd like one. No.
So first, good morning to all of you, and can you hear in the back?
Yes.
Good. Well, maybe it's good. So our schedule this morning is our usual Sunday morning schedule. We'll have some meditation with a couple of breaks leading up to around 11 o'clock this morning. And in between, we'll have a session of meditation on calm abiding with some instruction. And then following the mid-morning break, we'll have an open discussion with questions regarding the meditation itself or the path in general. So one item has been in my mind for some weeks and months. And that item is relevant to the starting recitations of refuge and bodhicitta. And in particular, the practice of bodhicitta. Not just as a small piece in the puzzle, but as an essential element to the potential of attaining realization, fulfilling completely the promise of the Dharma. Since our usual way of being in the world is deeply colored by our concern for our own benefit, in all the small ways and the big ways. And anyone who is at least a decade or two old, surely must have had the experience that it wasn't working. And so the practice of bodhicitta which is the aspiration to attain awakening in order that we might have the skill and the wisdom to bring genuine benefit to others. This practice can feel like a price that we must pay in order to attain that realization. Or it can feel even less important, that in order to be a good citizen in the world and in our spiritual community and everything in between, we need to hold the benefit of others above our own. But that understanding is actually a misunderstanding. Bodhicitta is not merely a nice addition to the practice. In both Mahayana Buddhism and Vajrayana Buddhism, it is absolutely essential to give rise to the wish to benefit all beings in every session of meditation, and to make a concerted effort to maintain that attitude throughout the meditation session, the formal practice that is, and in addition, in between all of our sessions, when we're moving about in the world with people we know and people we don't know. The practice of bodhicitta, again, is not merely a pleasant or good addition or enhancement to the practice. We can view and should view that practice of bodhicitta as the practice that makes all the others possible. So ordinarily in our daily activities, we tend to think almost exclusively about what we're doing, how we're doing it, whether we're getting what we need from it, and so on. And so when we begin the practice, in order to give up that self-centered attitude, we have to first turn our minds away from all of the things that fuel that self-centered attitude, all of the things that we rely upon for our happiness, our comfort. And that is the aspect of refuge, turning our minds to rely upon the Buddha, you can say, or the awakened mind, which each of us is fully endowed with, Another way of saying we are all inherently Buddhas, just we haven't woken up to that. So we go for refuge to the Buddha, our awakened mind, and we turn our minds to refuge in the Dharma, all of the teachings, the philosophical underpinnings of the tradition, the practices of meditation, most importantly, our experience. We go for refuge to that. And we go for refuge to the community of practitioners. We might say we go for refuge in our minds to all the communities of practitioners, all of those who hold the aspiration to benefit all sentient beings. We go for refuge to those communities and to the great beings who accomplish those aspirations. And then we come to this, the bodhicitta prayer, which is worthwhile not merely reciting, but at least when you're alone, to ponder it. Read it and ponder it. So it begins by saying, I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding, the most basic meditation practice that we have. In order to release all beings from their particular suffering. So that's merely a way of acknowledging that suffering has many faces. And we intend to know and understand all of those faces, that we might be skillful and wise enough to at least reduce the suffering of others. And then the grand aspiration, and establish them in lasting peace and happiness, which is the same as saying to bring them to full realization. So we'll begin our session this morning then by reciting the refuge and the bodhicitta prayer together 3 times. Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness. Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness. Until the summit of enlightenment is reached, I and all beings go for refuge to the sources of true refuge. I will now practice the absorption of calm abiding in order to release all beings from their particular suffering and establish them in lasting peace and happiness. Having made that aspiration to turn our minds to refuge in the three jewels of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, having recited and made the aspiration to free all beings from their particular suffering, it's important that we not merely then put that aside until the next appropriate time to recite it. Bodhicitta manifests its miracle by virtue of our making a continuous effort to recall the aspiration, to nurture it. It is the fuel of the Mahayana path. And without it, the entire path will become cold and dry. So even as we begin the meditation on calm abiding, it's important for us to function in that practice from the ground of bodhicitta. When we think about others and their suffering, it's appropriate, helpful, even a necessity for us to recognize that we're actually talking about ourselves. I would like to free myself from all my particular suffering. If we fail to acknowledge that we are indeed one of those myriad sentient beings, the bodhicitta will neither help ourselves nor others. We have to see both sides, our own, and acknowledging our own awakened mind at the core of our being, and likewise for all sentient beings. Though they may all suffer at various times in various ways, it's important that we hold the view that not a single one of them deserves anything less than complete awakening. So having contemplated the refuge in bodhicitta, when we bring our attention, our awareness to our own minds, the first thing we may encounter is turmoil. If it's not the first thing, it's not far behind. thoughts and feelings and perceptions arise in our mind continuously, without our inviting them, without our wanting them, in spite of our efforts to abandon them. And so, having begun the practice by acknowledging the suffering of sentient beings, one of the first things we do when we begin the actual meditation is to acknowledge that we are one of those sentient beings, and our own suffering is as important as the suffering of all sentient beings. But all sentient beings remind us of our own suffering, and also that we are qualified and we deserve nothing less than full awakening, freedom from all of that suffering, from its most minor, mere irritation level to the most damaging and fearful. So having said all of that, it's also important to understand that the practice of calm abiding is not actually about becoming calm. Well, I should actually say that's not the first thing. The first thing is to recognize that we are not calm, that the mind is not still. And when we see that, we may hold the false belief that calm abiding is about eliminating the turmoil, the thoughts and feelings and perceptions that arise continuously, day and night, all the time. When we see our minds like this, then we must recall that calm abiding is about developing the skill of sitting still in the middle of all that turmoil. The turmoil is not the problem. The problem really is our attachment to the aversion of the turmoil, or what is really identical, our attachment to the myriad pieces of the turmoil, our hopes and fears of being free of it, our hope that we'll be free and our fear that we will not be, our hope that we'll be free of suffering and the fear that we will not be able to be free of it. This is the real issue that we begin to address with calm abiding. So thinking like that, bring your awareness to the movement of your breath in the most simple, straightforward way. Notice when you are inhaling and notice when you're exhaling. And if there are thoughts, feelings, perceptions arising during that process, you can notice that too. The key to the practice then is twofold. First, develop the skill to see what is going on. And second, engage in short sessions. In the practice of calm abiding, the sessions can be as short as a few minutes, like 3 or 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You can break your session by standing up, moving around a bit, and then sitting down again, or you can do it while sitting in place. When your awareness is stable enough to remain clear about the continuous unfolding of your experience for 3 or 4 seconds, then separate your breaks by 5 or 6 seconds. And when 5 or 6 seconds is stable, move to 9 or 10 seconds. If you make an effort in this way, you will definitely have success. If you try to go too fast, you will notice that you are not progressing. When that happens, slow down, have shorter sessions again. And continue in this way for the duration of the session. short break.
By
This virtue
May I quickly realize
Mahamudra
and
establish all beings without exception in this state.
So we're going to take a little break. Let's see, if only half of us use the bathroom, we'll be done in about 10 minutes.
Somebody else hold it.
So it might be about 15 minutes. So take a break, and if you're there's things in the kitchen, hot water urns and things to make tea with. If you'd like a cup of tea, make one. And we'll ring the bell in about 10 or 15 minutes to come back.